Hello and welcome to the Cyclone YouTube channel. My name is Rat, and in this video, part 18 of MyRobotLab series, we're going to look at installing MyRobotLab onto a Raspberry Pi. In this video, I'm going to be using a Raspberry Pi 3, but this procedure works on a Raspberry Pi 4 as well. Before we start, you will need a micro SD card, a micro SD card writer, and a Raspberry Pi 3. So before we do anything else, let's put our micro SD card into the right slot of our card reader. And then we will switch over and install a new operating system on it. Okay, so I've started the Raspberry Pi imager. You can download this software from the Raspberry Pi website, and it's free to download. So what I'm going to do is choose the OS. We're going to use Raspberry Pi OS Other. So MyRobotLab is not yet supporting Bullseye. It was designed with Buster, and the Raspberry Pi service in MyRobotLab does not yet support Bullseye, but we will work with Buster. We're going to go with, what have we got? We've got Bullseye, Buster Legacy OS. So we're just going to go with that one. We're going to choose our storage. In this case, it will be a generic storage device, USB. I'm using a 32 gigabyte micro SD card, so this will be the one that we're using. It was previously used before. Now, in the Raspberry Pi imager, if you go into settings, you can set a host name. In this case, the default is always going to be Raspberry Pi, but you might be using it for a particular robot, so you can set the host name to match that particular robot. In this case, I'm just going to leave it as Raspberry Pi. Actually, I might change it. Underscore MRL. I can't have an underscore, but I can have a dash. We scroll down further. Enable SSH. Set username and password. So we're going to continue with the default username of Pi, but I've set my own personal password in here. You can set your own. I've configured my wireless LAN to use SSID Edgeley, and I've included my password for the wireless network. This will allow the Raspberry Pi imager to automatically include this as part of the image as it puts it onto the micro SD card. This does make it a lot easier. And you can save this configuration so that if you re-image your SD card, it makes it a lot easier. I'm in Australia, so I'm going to set the wireless LAN country to be AU. I'm in Victoria, Australia, and I'm using a US keyboard layout. I can play a sound when finished, reject the media when finished, and enable telemetry. So I'm going to save all of that, and then when I write, all of that is included as part of my standard image. So let's proceed with that. Yes, I know it's going to erase all the data. So the first thing it will do is open up the drive, it'll format it, partition it the way it needs to be, and then start writing the new image to it. So I'm going to speed this video up for you. Now at this point, it might pop up a window if you're using a Windows computer like I am, saying about inserting a disk or formatting the disk. Just cancel out of those. We'll let the Raspberry Pi imager handle all of it. Okay, so now that's finished, and I'll post up how long that took up here somewhere. It will pop up another window saying that one location is not available. Do you want to format it? I'm going to say no and close that window. I can now remove the card from the reader and then click on continue and close that tool. So I'm going to switch back to my camera. Okay, so now that I've got this image, I'll pull this out. In the Raspberry Pi 3, we have the little terminal connection slides on facing up, and we plug it in under the LCD display port. So this is an LCD CSI port. Up here we have the CSI camera port and the the HDMI port, plus the stereo and video composite output. And these up here are GPIO pins. So next trick is to plug it in and turn it on so that it can boot up. Now, something I think I forgot to mention is I am going to be performing a headless install. So headless install means that I will not be using a monitor connected to this, and I won't be connecting a keyboard or a mouse. So to complete the headless install, we're going to let this start up. The first thing it will do is expand the image out on the micro SD card to use all of the micro SD card. Then when it's completed, it will reboot and settle down, and then we can find it on the Wi-Fi network. I've used this card this Raspberry Pi quite a few times on my network. So I have actually programmed my router to give it the same address every time using its MAC address. In theory, you should be able to type into your SSH client or VNC the name that we gave it, such as Raspberry Pi-MRL.local, and find it that way. So the green light indicates that it's still working. It's hard to see the green light in the light. And the red light saying I haven't got enough voltage coming in. The little power supply I'm using is a USB 4 amp charger, so should be fine. I actually plugged into the wrong charger, but it'll work. Okay, switching over to Putty, which is a free download. If you do a search online, you can download it, no charge. It's a good little SSH terminal program. And we'll connect to that. Now, it's going to pop up a little security alert saying that you're attempting to connect to something for the first time. Do you want to accept that connection, or just connect once? I'm going to accept the connection. And as soon as I do, I get this window. So I'm going to log in as Pi, use the password I preset, and as you can see, I am now logged in. By running this command sudo, which is superuserdo, raspi-config, it's going to give us some options that we can configure. Most of the ones that we were interested in for our locality, etc., are already set. But in this case, I want to go to interface options. I want to go to VNC. I'm just using my up and down arrows to navigate. Press enter to select, and I'm going to turn that on. And now that's enabled. Everything else we'll do from the VNC desktop when we get to it. So I'm going to use Tab, get down to Select, use the right arrow button to get to Finish, and press Enter. Now I'm going to type in sudo and reboot. And that will disconnect me and cause the Raspberry Pi to boot back up again. So I can close that, and I'm not going to need that anymore. I'm going to try and connect to it using VNC. You can type in that same address, raspberry pi-mrl.local, and it will say, this is a new connection. Are you sure you want to connect to it? I'm going to continue. And we get our little window. I'm going to blow that up so it's a lot easier to see. Set this up. My country is Australia. My time zone is in Melbourne. Use the US keyboard. I'm going to use the English language as well. I'm just going to go over. I'm going to have to enter my password again. So make sure you use a good strong password, something you will remember. Because I'm running headless, this won't be an effect. We'll skip over this because we're already connected via Wi-Fi. And we will do the software update because this will take time and we do need it running for everything else we're going to do later on. So I'm going to speed up through this. Okay. Now we're going to do a restart. This will apply all of the new updates that we just installed. So right now the Raspberry Pi is going through the boot up sequence. Once it is finished booting up and VNC has started, the server has started back up on the Raspberry Pi, it will reconnect. I'm going to have to go through and manually set that. But this will do for now. Okay, so under settings, preferences, might even find it under there. Display, here's sound resolution. So I'm going to switch this to 1080p. And okay. Now I used to do that by editing the config file, but I found I can do it here and it works just as well. Okay. We'll do a reboot, which will change the resolution. This, of course, will disconnect, reboot, and then reconnect, but with a higher resolution. Better. Okay, so when we have a look in the menu, we'll see that the Raspberry Pi Foundation has started using Firefox. as the default web browser. MyRobotLab has been built based on Chrome and Chromium and use some of the features that are available in it, such as the web speech recognition server, which is a Chrome-based service. We also need Java 11 installed. So we'll open up a terminal window, sudo apt-get install Chromium. Yes, and we'll let it install that. Okay, now that that's installed, I'm going to install the Java JDK, Java Development Kit. Okay, so now that we've got Java 11 installed, one of the things we discovered was that Java 11 and MyRobotLab with the sound didn't play nice. And we found that we had to make a slight change to the configuration. So what we need to do is paste, I'll put in the description, I'll put all of these instructions in there, including which OpenJDK to install. But we're going to use the sudo command or superuser do, because this is like a file. We're going to edit a file in the etc folder. We're going to use nano, which is a text editor, to edit that file. And the file we need to edit is etc/java-11-openjdk/sound.properties. When we open this file, we'll scroll all the way to the bottom, and I'll also have in the description what we need to paste in there, and we will paste that. So this configures Java to use ELSA and use the default settings within ELSA instead of trying to use the original defaults. So we'll write that out. So in this case, we go Control-O, which will write it, press enter on the file name, and then Control-X to exit that. So next thing we need to do is install MyRobotLab itself. So if we go to Internet, we'll see we've got Chromium and Firefox. We'll go to Chromium. MyRobotLab by default, when it installs, will choose the default web browser. So one of the things we're going to do is change which web browser is our default. So if you go up to the two little dots on the right, and we'll go to Settings. We'll scroll down our settings until we get to default browser, and we will make it the default. Okay, so up in the address bar, we're going to now type www.myrobotlab.org, which is your organization, and press enter on that. And that takes you to the MyRobotLab website. And you can see news articles from different people on that default page. But what we want is up in menu, drop that down and go to download. This will jump us across to GitHub, and you'll find the latest version of MyRobotLab. As of recording, it's 1.1.1214, Files and Mixing Series, and we want to go to Download Built Application and click on that. And that will download the latest compiled version of MyRobotLab. You can also go to the Discord channel, and there will be a link in the description to the MyRobotLab Discord, as well as and it is possible to go to the MyRobotLab Discord and actually download the source files as well. Or you can just click on here and download the source files. That's now downloaded, so we don't need our web browser anymore for now, so we will close that. Open up our File Explorer, and we'll go to Downloads. And there is MyRobotLab. I'm going to unzip it, extract here. It's cool. And if we click on there, it'll give us full name of that folder. I'm just going to change it because I like MRL dot and then the version numbers I've got installed. Okay, we're going to cut that, go to the Pi folder and paste it. And there it is up here. So back to our terminal, change directory to MRL. You press the tab key, it will actually finish the line for you. Makes life so much easier. If we use ls, it'll list what's in the directory, and you'll see that we've got a bat file, which we use for Windows. We've got a jar file, which is the full MyRobotLab program, and then we've got myrobotlab.sh. We're going to use the sh, which is a shell file, which will send all the correct commands that we need to actually install and run MyRobotLab. It will call Java and that MyRobotLab Java file. So because this is in the local directory and not in the command paths, we need to put a dot first, slash myrobotlab.sh, and press enter. It will look, find that it's not already installed, and start the process of installing. This is going to take some time, so I will fast forward through this for you. Okay, so we appear to have finished installing. It's taken a little over 2.5 hours for the install to complete or thereabouts. I'll put the exact time on the video, but you can now see that it is operational, and it automatically started up Chromium, which is the preferred web browser. Okay, so one of the things we can do is access this from the web browser on our Windows computer or Mac or bigger Linux computer if you have it, by simply typing in the web address :8888. So from the Raspberry Pi, that's going to be localhost. From the Windows computer, that's going to be Raspberry Pi-MRL :8888, and that should work. If you like these videos, don't forget to click on like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. That way you'll be notified when more videos come out. It's also a form of support, helps the channel a great deal and costs you absolutely nothing. If you'd like to support this channel further, I do have a Patreon account. I'd like to thank my patrons, VIPs Go Lucky and Lorenz Berger, and my builder patrons, Elmerels45 and Whitewolf. If you've got any questions, then feel free to leave a comment below or drop into either my Discord server, there'll be a link in the description, or the MyRobotLab Discord server, there'll also be a link in the description. And I'll put a few of those scripts that I use to do the install, such as the command line to install Chromium, the command line to install the Java, and the command line to start editing, the sound properties for the Java, and what to add in. And we'll see you on the next video.